What up, everybody? Welcome to the Rip City Pod. I'm Erik Anderson, an NBA writer at Heavy. And let's just start this the right way. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? That's surely what everyone's thinking in Portland, and anyone that woke up and had notifications enabled on their phones, seeing news that Chauncey Billups and Terry Rozier had been indicted or arrested and are being charged with connections to a gambling ring associated with the mafia in New York and the Italian mobs, etc. So it's a bizarre day. There's really no other way to start a podcast about the Blazers other than by talking about this. Typically, we like to catch you up on the news that have happened since the last time we spoke. But this is literally the biggest thing happening in regard to the Blazers. So the news for those who haven't, if you somehow haven't heard, is Chauncey Billups was arrested in Oregon early Thursday morning and charged with being connected to a illegal poker ring. Essentially what would happen would be he, among other celebrities, would be used to fish for suckers, essentially, that would come play these games, having access to higher profile people and playing in these poker games, and then the game would be rigged in a way where the average Joe had no chance of winning. So that could be cards being marked that could be seen with contact lenses and glasses, allowing the wearer to see what cards they had. It could be there was talk about poker chip trays fitted with micro cameras that could just see the cards of the players. There was an X-ray table mentioned where the table could be seen through to see cards, and then that information relayed back to players at the table. There's all sorts of insanity to this thing in regards to Billups. And the FBI held a press conference early Thursday morning to discuss it and kind of talk about their early findings, how they were going about the arrest, and what was to come next. So it's a doozy. Lots there. Obviously, the Blazers quickly, maybe not so quickly. It took about 6 hours before they had announced that Billups would be away from the team on a leave of absence, and Tiago Splitter would be the acting interim coach, which is good for Splitter. It's good for the Blazers to distance themselves from Billups in this time. Obviously, he's innocent until proven guilty. We all know how the legal system works. But it's, in my opinion, it would be very hard for him to be associated with the NBA brand at all going forward. If you're Adam Silver, who recently, as of a few days ago, had come out speaking how we needed to better manage the sports betting industry at large, to have one of your high-profile coaches get caught up in a gambling ring and to be making headlines for all the wrong reasons, and to have just the word arrest pop up with not only one of your coaches, but one of your former players and coaches, and Terry Rozier and Damon Jones, and obviously the lifetime ban of Jontay Porter last season. There'll have to be some PR work done from the NBA standpoint to repair some of that image. And it would be shocking to me to see Chauncey Billups associated with the brand at all. Obviously, I don't have any inside information on that, but it's, even if he somehow went through the whole legal process on the federal level and came out innocent, I would suspect the NBA would not encourage any team to employ him at that point. Obviously, that's my speculation, my opinion. So we're not going to report that as facts, but that's how I feel about it. The whole press conference is pretty bizarre. I never thought I'd be watching Cash Patel get fired up and try to, really hit us over the head with patriotism and we're gonna get you kind of rhetoric, but here it was Thursday morning. Pretty bizarre. The assistant FBI director, Christopher Rea, at one point talked about Italians for like 30 seconds. Like, we're gonna get you Italians, Italians, Italians. So that's obviously incredible. I don't know what Rea's. I get he's talking about Italian crime families, but he just kind of said Italians 3 times. So Christopher's got some beef that I'm sure we'll understand better if we were in his world. But it was just a shocking thing in a bizarre moment, and maybe one of the lower points in Trailblazers history to have that news hit early Thursday morning. So what's next is you're going to see Tiago Splitter as a head coach. And I think fans should feel pretty good about Splitter, to be honest. I mean, if you liked Chauncey Billups coming into Portland when he had very little coaching experience and was more just a brand than an actual coach, I feel like you should love Tiago Splitter. Not because he was more accomplished as a player, he certainly wasn't. Chauncey Billups' playing career was Hall of Fame worthy. He obviously just went into the Hall of Fame, and Tiago Splitter is an NBA champion with the Spurs, but obviously did not have as sterling of a career as Billups. But Splitter has spent times in Brooklyn, Houston, and even as a head coach over in Europe and Paris, and has been pretty highly regarded. Former players of his had talked about how they liked his free-flowing style and how it was refreshing and how he was just kind of a good personality to be around. So I think what the Blazers are getting right now is you don't look like, oh, Billups is out, Splitter's in, we're back to square one, and we have to reconfigure everything. I think you look at it like this is a guy that has a little bit of momentum in his coaching career and can probably, especially early in a season, hit the ground running and be able to, I don't know if he'll change a whole lot, but if he wants to, he can really implement new things early on because these habits haven't been built with a ton of game time so far. I wouldn't expect to see anything right away, like on Friday. I suspect you're going to see a lot of what you saw in the opening game against the Timberwolves, but you never know. Obviously, guys come in and they might want to fully change things. Rotations could change. I wouldn't expect it, but all that's possible, certainly. So I think that's somewhat exciting from that standpoint. Obviously, Tiago's unproven, and so it'll be interesting to see. I think he's only 39 years old. He's pretty young by head coaching standards. So it'll be interesting to just see how he carries himself and how he handles it, and how he handles the moment looking across the court and seeing Steve Kerr and the Warriors. That's maybe the best coach in the game, and now you have Tiago Splitter, he's got to be the lowest man on the totem pole. He's got to work his way into it. So it'll be interesting to see that little mini drama play out on Friday. But before we got to rigged poker games and, learning that to the tune of about $7 million had been defrauded from good hardworking Americans, I guess. We don't know who actually lost money here, but we know that people were cheated. There was a good basketball game on Wednesday. The Blazers looked really solid for 3 quarters and maybe 90% of the fourth quarter. They had the Timberwolves on the ropes and had them in a position where a few more made shots or just a couple stops, and the Blazers have a signature win to start the season. But instead, Anthony Edwards was superhuman. The Blazers chose not to double him and single covered him all night, to maybe in part to prove like, hey, look, our defense is good enough where we can cover a superstar one-on-one, and that kind of backfired. Anthony Edwards had 41 points and hit just incredible step back jumpers and created shots one-on-one, and showed why he is a one-of-one talent in the NBA. But there was so many good things prior to that. We saw things like Matisse Thybulle checking in. I teased last week that we kind of know what Matisse is. and you're not sure that you really need to see a whole lot more, but he checked in and immediately jumped 2 passing lanes for 2 steals. And you see him do that and you go, oh yeah, that's why people like Matisse. And it just makes you go, oh, I'm sorry, Matisse. I wasn't familiar with your game, or I was familiar with your game and I didn't realize how fun that was. Again, wow, amazing. Um, he didn't do a whole lot else, but you could see that his movement on defense and what he can do off ball is still elite. He didn't lose that step. He didn't lose that sense of where to be and how to read passing lanes. So that was pretty good. Another thing that just jumped out immediately in the game was Rudy Gobert's shaved head, and somehow that just makes him more annoying. Like I think Rudy Gobert is fun, and I'm a supporter of his in a lot of ways. And I can't really explain this, but it's just undeniably true. He just is more annoying with the shaved head. I can't really explain it. I'm not even trying to criticize him because as a balding man, I think I can absolutely comment on other people's hair, or lack thereof. Like I like Rudy too. So I think I'm one of those guys that has always been the advanced stats say he's an elite defender. He's been a defensive player of the year. He rebounds, he blocks shots, he does all these incredible things. And despite the ample playoff data that says you can't play him in clutch situations, I still sympathize with them. Like I feel bad when Shaq roasts him on national TV for years. I feel bad that he's kind of been disrespected by like the Draymond Greens of the world. But for some reason, man, that shaved head was just villainous looking. Like he just looked like a James Bond villain or something. Um, so then quickly before this game became about um, Anthony Edwards hitting incredible shots, it was the Jeremy Grant game. This was going to be his masterclass. I mean, he hit so many big shots and shot an unreal percentage, which you absolutely cannot believe that he'll continue to do all season. I mean, it would be he'd be shooting 60% or something consistently. That's obviously unreal and unheard of. But when he has it going and he's knocking down shots, you go, wow, this guy's like really, really talented. He provides a lot of spacing and he provides a lot of balance to an offense. Um, and also, I think as soon as he checked in, he defended Anthony Edwards and like had like a really good sequence of defense. Anthony still hit an incredible shot over him, but you could see that like Grant's mobility was still really good. Um, that's in a lot of those positions, especially against a guy like Anthony Edwards. That's really all you can ask for out of a defender is like just make the shot hard, and if he hits it, so what? I mean, that's all you can ever ask for a defense. Defense is not guaranteed to stop an offensive possession ever, especially on a basketball court, especially in the NBA, especially when there's so many possessions, and especially when the talent level is so high. But Grant showed some pretty good defensive chops early, um, and then late, it was still good, but Edwards was just hitting shots. But yeah, he looked like Jeremy Grant looked like a perfect offensive piece out there. He wasn't doing too much. He was knocking down shots when they came to him and playing that solid defense. And so when he's doing stuff like that, you go, oh, he fits with any team. Like any team in the NBA would want him. And if you're watching last night, you go like, oh, his trade value's never been higher. Every contending team would want a Jeremy Grant. And obviously, you're not going to get that every night, and it might only be one night a week or it might only be one night a month. We're not sure. But if you just watch that and watch that film against a Western Conference Finals team, um, which the Timberwolves were a season ago, and I believe the season before that, um, if you were a GM, you'd be looking at this guy like, well, we could get him. Like he's not that expensive. His contract's expensive, but Portland's not going to ask for, in my opinion, a whole lot. Um, and then early on, we saw, we got to see a lot of Tumani Kamara and Anthony Edwards matchups one-on-one, which is fun because they were teammates in college too. So there was a little bit of extra juice flowing there. But I think the very first time Kamara checked Ant, he just got barbecued. Like Ant showed that even if you're an all NBA defender, second team, whatever it was last season, he's still just there's still just levels to this. It wasn't even close. Um, so that was a little if you were in the Tumani Kamara is an elite defender club and he's incredible. He's still very good. Watching Anthony Edwards just barbecue him possession after possession is like it's tough, right? It's tough. The NBA is an offensive league, but we like to think that we had something going well in Portland, and then you didn't really see Tumani getting a ton of stops last night, at least when he was the primary defender on Anthony Edwards. Um, but yeah, one of the best moments in the game came when Jeremy Grant had he had a season full of highlights in a single game. So we've already talked a little bit about it, but we'll give it its proper due. Um, he had an incredible catch. The best highlight was probably when he had a catch in the post. Immediately shook Naz Reid with like a little shoulder shimmy, pivoted, and just punished the rim. Like it was like a violent Amari Stoudemire move. You know, if you remember Stoudemire's propensity for just catching the ball and finding a way to turn to the rim and just blast the rim, it's something I hadn't seen a ton out of Grant ever, really. I mean, he's athletic and he can do it, but it was just a very physical move. And Naz Reid's a good defender. Naz Reid's a huge part of what Minnesota does, and Jeremy just got the better of him on that one. And some other fun little notes here that I wanted to share. I'm never going to be the guy that says, like, you should stay home and watch the broadcast over going and experiencing sports in person. Sports are obviously like, incredible to watch. You see the grace and the size and the athleticism. And it's just elite to see it in person. But if you had to watch a broadcast, the Blazers broadcast was pretty good, especially for the first game of the season. They did a really good job. Obviously, Kevin Calabro and Lamar Hurd are pros. They've been doing it. Their chemistry is at a super high level, but they just had a nice flow to the game, and the little segments they built in were really smart and clever and fun. At one point, they had Carrie Brownstein and one of her band members from a band she's in do a sequence, or a little hit on. Um, just being Portland supporters, and Brooke Olzendam interviewed them, and it was like an unexpected Portlandia moment, and you're going, yeah, great, this is why Portland's weird and awesome, and the dream of the 90s is alive, and that's hilarious, and thank you for that. I didn't know I even needed that, but I did. Perfect. Thank you, Blazers podcast crew. That's fantastic. um Trying to just get through quickly the rest of my notes here. It was a great game. If you read local media reports, there was lots of people that were very positive on how the Blazers looked. People pointing out that unexpected role players played great defensive minutes, that the Blazers were right there until the last few minutes. It was a pretty good game. It's a little disheartening to get that close to a team that is very good. You know the Timberwolves are going to be competing for a championship again, and to not close it out. Um, it's it's exciting to have seen that the Blazers are now a totally different team than what we saw a decade ago. Uh, Typically, you'd see like Dame is what you saw mostly in the 2010s was this is Dame's team, and the Blazers are going to hang around enough, and then the last few minutes we're going to see Dame just do incredible theatrics, and hopefully he make enough plays and hit enough shots for the Blazers to win. But now it's kind of the defensive crew. Now it's like the team's going to hold in there enough defensively, and you're still kind of wondering who that late game offensive producer is going to be. And last night, Jeremy had his chance. Drew had a chance. Trying to think who else had a late shot. There's a couple opportunities that just didn't fall for the Blazers, but they were right there. And if the Blazers add an elite piece, obviously every NBA team wants an elite scorer and a clutch time scorer and all this stuff. But you can see that if this team maintained this identity for another year, and you brought Dame back to like maybe 70% of what he used to be, this could be a really good team. Obviously, that's a long ways away, and you never know. But um, it was good. Uh, the broadcast crew also noted it was Jeremy Grant's first time off the bench since 2019. slash 2020 season with Denver, which is like crazy to think about too. And all Jeremy did was come into the game and have maybe one of his best career, certainly one of his best games as a Blazer, and maybe one of the better games of his career. So shout out to Jeremy for locking in and doing that. It was really fun to watch. But yeah, in the biggest moment of the game, it was Anthony Edwards stealing a show. I mean, he beat Kamara one-on-one, isolated on him, and then created space for a long two and dropped it in. And, if you love narrative as much as I love narrative, you're going like, that's our all defensive guy. He should make this stop. This is his moment. And then you also look at the other side and you go, Anthony Edwards is really good. Like he's 24 years old and he's really good. So it's a little bit of a tough one for me to swallow. I know that there was positive reception that the Blazers were competitive, but when you're that close to beating a good team, you'd like your team to close it out and kind of show like, hey, we're going to be better than people thought we were this season. And the Blazers still can be that. We're not going to overreact too much after one game, but you'd love to see a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a little bit more discipline and guile, to close a game like that out. You had a really good team in your house down to the last few possessions, and just the ball didn't quite bounce your way. And so now I want to do a fun little feature for the rest of my notes called Quick Shouts. Shout out to Donovan Clingan's beard. Looks nice. Well done. That's a clean cut. Another shout out to Calabro and Hurd for just bringing it. That was great. Thanks, fellas. A quick shout out to Bones Highland being in Minnesota. Had no idea. And maybe that's totally emblematic of the Bones Highland experience. You have those like highs of him just being crazy with the ball and hitting insane shots and having like a wow Bones play, and then you forget he exists for 3 quarters. And I think that's exactly what happened last night. It's like, oh, Bones is in. He's in Minnesota. He's playing for 2 minutes, then he's gone. And I think we brought this out last pod as well, but the Blazers theory of whichever center hits a 3 gains everyone's favorite for the night. And it was Donovan Clingan tonight. Donovan Clingan hit his 3 and put the Blazers up 7 as the third quarter expired. And it was just like a big moment. You thought like, whoa, the Blazers could even like blow these guys out. They didn't. But there was a moment where you're going, whoa, that's really good. And I guess it's worth discussing on the other side of that. As Donovan plays well, Young only played a few minutes, wasn't very effective. It's nothing against him. I think it was matchup stuff, and I think it was just not having it that night, like not being ready for that speed. And in a game where Anthony Edwards is torching everybody, and Rudy Gobert obviously can take advantage of some of that, those rookie tendencies that Young would bring onto the court. I think Coach Billups made a decision to save Young a little bit from himself and just stay locked in a competitive game. You can't really have a rookie out there making a ton of mistakes. And I'm not suggesting Young did, but he just wasn't being his productive self that we'd seen shades of in the preseason. So I think we'll still see more Young, but as Donovan had a pretty solid game, that meant there was fewer opportunities for other big men to do stuff in the Blazers game. So that is about the end of this thing. I of course want to just say thank you for tuning in. Thanks for the new follows and the new viewership. We really appreciate you guys tuning in to the Rip City pod and obviously supporting the I-5 corridor. Tyson's built a great thing here, and we're excited the season's here. We're excited to do some more analysis. We're hoping that not every day is a national news breaking story that we need to comment on for 10 minutes, but maybe that's this year's Blazers. I don't know. Maybe we're gonna go back to shades of their late 90s and early 2000s where you just never knew what was going to happen with the Blazers next. But it's been, at the very least, it'll be interesting. It'll be fun, and we'll have it covered. We'll be right there with you. And finally, I just want to say, Italians. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.